Are we live?
We are live.
All right, thanks.
And I think we give guys maybe dakika tano hivi for 4 additional guys to join them. We start.
Okay.
Now we have Brian also from TCRA. I've requested him to be a presenter in case he wants to share a few words of wisdom.
Someone has been waiting for the walkthrough. All right.
Our top 3 and 4 imekuwa na changamoto. Guys are really looking forward.
Trying to increase the font. I don't know if that's better in my terminal. Or it was okay before.
Yeah, I think you can increase it a bit.
I think you need to mute Timothy.
Let me see if I can mute him.
It's not working on my end. Unless you check him first. Yeah. We wait until there are 20 people, or how many do we expect?
Just 3 more minutes, then we can start.
Okay.
Mike, I believe we are set to start. So, good evening, everyone. Good afternoon for anyone joining us from a different time zone. Nimefurahi sana to get to spend my Friday evening with you guys. I hope we had a lovely day, way lovelier week, just especially handling the challenges and just trying to learn one or two things. I also heard that a few guys were also having an exam. So I also hope you're also having a good time with the exam. And for those still doing the exams, we wish you all the best. So for today's session, I have one of my colleague called Michael Ikua, who will be taking us through the walkthrough for workshop 3 and workshop 4. Additionally, if you check the announcement channel, what you have basically done, based on the feedback and input you have received from you, we have reshared new lobbies for workshop 1 to workshop 4, starting from today 8 and ending on Sunday. So just take note of that, look at the timelines, and feel free to choose or join whichever lobby works best for you. Then with those few remarks, Mike, I hand over this to you. Mike, I think you're on mute.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, great. I'm hoping you guys had a chance to go through the mission. I'm not going to spend much time there. So we're just going to go straight into the questions. So we know that we are having one victim that we are targeting, which is this IP. So first things first, when you're trying to understand what is going to be your, let's say, way of understanding what the system is running and all that, it's usually typical to use Nmap. So we need to find open ports. This is just things that are being discussed here in the mission. So we need to perform port scanning. So a typical port scan would be Nmap followed by the IP address. 8.1.25.10. But in our case, just to make our work faster, we're going to include more options. First one is going to be default. Is it default scripts? And also,
Mike,
I'm going to, yes.
I think your screen bado ni kidogo. At least I know from my end, I'm really straining to see it.
For CyberRange, I think you can check it on your end, but I think my terminal is bigger now.
Just increase it slightly. Better. If anyone can't see it, feel free to let us know, and Mike will increase it more.
Okay, so this flag sets up the default scripts, and then the second one, it sets up version scanning from Nmap. So what default scripts will do, Nmap has a predefined number of scripts that it runs against services it finds. For example, if you find a web application, it will run some GET requests, some POST requests. If it finds FTP, it will check for some basic credentials. If it finds something like 445, which is like Samba, it will try to log in without a password and such and such. Those are the default scripts. So they are dependent on all the services that Nmap will discover. Then the version scan is basically an aggressive way of Nmap to check the version that is available. So it also has predefined ways of how it discovers the versions running. So let's kick off this. So good thing about this does not need, you can just run it by this. You can do this using, let me switch over to my CyberRangers tab here. You can do this using the web shell. But for me, I'm currently connected to VPN, as you can see here. So I'm just running this from my laptop. So it's up to you. So we just wait. 62% done.
Mike,
Yes.
well, given I'm not a red team person, so you say the small s, which switch stands for the Nmap scripts? The C or the S?
The C. So the C is for the scripts, and then the V is for versions. So the second one is what can help you differentiate. So -SV, this will run a version scan, and then -SC is for default scripts. So once the output comes
and the
back
S?
the S now is it allows you to specify these options, because if I do Nmap -H, there are many options. So if you go to the part about not OS detection, see script scans. So the -S is supplied when you're using script scan. So you see the first one is -SC, which is just the default. So these are like shorthands for the longer commands. So when you're dealing with scripts, you use -S. So when you append the C, it is the equivalent to the default scripts.
Okay, makes sense.
Yeah. So we have the service or version. This is -SV. So those are just the shorthands for these two. So you can either use the longhand or just use them like this, because they are very common options. So that's why they have predefined shorthands.
Okay, makes sense. Please, now I know. Thank you. And guys, if you have questions for Mike, feel free just to let us know, or just chat them away, and I'll attention them to him.
So someone is saying my screen is now too big because the numbers are huge. The problem now, the way it's appearing on different people's screens. Try to reduce it a bit, because also it's going to be difficult to read the output. I think this is a good size for everybody.
Mike, I think your screen now is very small.
I think this is Lawrence. I think you have a good monitor, but because I can see in the chat someone is saying the terminal is a bit huge. I don't know. At this point, maybe some feedback can help. I think you're using a screen. You're using a screen with big resolution for you, if I'm not wrong, Lawrence.
Maybe. So guys, if the screen is too small, just let Mike know. Yeah, guys are saying it's too small.
So is it too small or too big? At this point, I'm not sure.
It's too small.
How to go?
Just return it to the way it was previously. Based on that, I think guys say that it was big enough, yes. And I don't know if you need the CyberStars, the workshop 3, the Cyber Ranger, page.
Just remove this.
Yeah, I think maybe if you remove that and enlarge your screen, maybe maximize. Yeah, I think that's better for guys.
Yeah, so I'll mention out the question. So right now, we're working for question 1. It says, okay, we've already done our Nmap scan, so we need to get the first flag. So if we look through the output, you can see the first port discovered is port 22, which is SSH. Typically, SSH is not a vulnerable service, so there's very little you can do on SSH. Next one is port 80. So this small subheadings here is what comes back by the script scan and version scan. So version scan identifies this part, and this under here is now the default scripts. I hope now the output now is making more sense, Lawrence. So this subtopics here are the default scripts. So this is one default script that collects the HTTP server header, another one collects the HTTP title and such. So we have port 80, 80, 80. What else? We have 31337. Okay. So we have seen the versions. So the next step is to just open our browser and visit these applications just to see what is there. Hoping my browser is visible. I'll increase the font in a bit. So let's go to the first one, port 80. So port 80 is just running default, so we can probably we just going on a high level, not going deep. Next one is netstart. This is best way to, it says the best way to view the output is viewing the source, which I've just done. So this is just displaying services, nothing interesting. So when we come to this point, interesting information is usually sometimes hidden in the server headers. So how do you view server headers? We can use the browser developer tools. So in this case, there's a developer tool which is part of the network. So refreshing the page, and under network tab in developer tools, we have access to the raw headers provided by the server. So let's look at them.
Micah, I don't know if you can increase your developer tools. If you can zoom in on them, or
I don't know if there's an option to add font size here. I've never seen it before. I think this is something you guys.
I don't know if you maximize the browser, if it will help.
Probably not. This part is. I've never seen an option to increase the size. I don't see a font option here. Fortunately,
I think it's okay. Maybe what you can do at this stage, just maybe take it slightly slower, so that guys at least can get the concept behind it, so that when we go back to our scenario itself, the guys will be able to try to recreate your steps.
Okay. So another solution you can do, if you're not seeing my window properly, I just use the terminal, and there's a command line HTTP client called curl. So this can help us identify any hidden information from the web server. So typically we just run head request instead of a get. We run a head request just to see the output. So this is just what the server is responding with. If you have familiarity with the HTTP protocol, this should be normal stuff to you. So we have the server version, which is, this is what now Nmap collects. If you remember our Nmap scan here, it got the server version. So this is where it gets them from. The server version there. Nothing interesting. So let's check the next port, 8080. Okay, and interestingly enough, we have our first flag. So it is hidden in the headers. So there's many different ways you can approach reading server headers. We can use the terminal command, or you can check the developer tools, or another option which is also much easier is using Babsuit. So if you have Babsuit Community Edition, this is now on your, if you have Kali Linux, you should have this by default. Look at the HTTP history, then refresh. I know it's very small. Unfortunately, there's not much I can do about that now, but I'm just highlighting that there are different ways to approaching this. So we have, if I refresh, and as I forgot to turn on the proxy, refresh this, and there we can see the headers that are being sent back. Do the same thing for here and get the headers, and right here is where the flag is. I don't know if so far so good there's anything I need to clarify. Any question?
So think so far in a way so good. So bit of question, there is a user who asked what if they use SCV? I'm just going to chat the Nmap command. They wanted clarification on.
I think it should still work. Let me have seen it. And the question. So the question is, if you run without them combined, and I think it should still be okay to combine, but I don't know. I don't typically do this, so I think this is I can leave that up to your testing. But I typically just run them separate, just because, as I showed you, the Nmap help menu, it classifies them as two different options. So maybe combining them may not have the intended result you want.
Then maybe Mike, just to chip in on that, as I said, I'm not a red team expert, but maybe the switching is similar to Linux, where at times you can get away with combining multiple switches instead of using them separately. Maybe.
Yeah, it's possible. I think it at that point it just boils down to preference. So
yes.
If it works, sure, but I don't know. I'm just I typically do this because it doesn't hurt anything to, and also it allows you to clearly see what you're running. So it can be just, up to you. If you combine them, it's no problem. Someone is asking, why are headers important? Okay. So
Mike,
yes.
Just before you answer that, there is Benjamin asked us when to use the switch PN, and I think someone was gracious enough to respond. I don't know if there's anything you want to add. So I'll paste you the question.
Yeah, it's correct. If you perform, okay, so there's a few things that happen in the background when you run Nmap. So for Nmap to properly start to scan a host, by default, it checks first if the host is alive. So let's say, for example, if I do, and a host that does not exist, if I try to Nmap this, what Nmap is doing in the background, it's running a ping. So this is what it's doing by default at the beginning of the scan, so that it doesn't waste time scanning a host that is not running. So it tries to first run some ping, and also there are different ways of running ping scans. So it runs the ping, and then after running the ping is when it kicks off the port scan. So there are two two steps inside this one command. First step is running the ping. Second step is running the port scan. Now, if we don't, let's say for example, you're in an environment where ping or the server you are contacting is blocking ping requests, you can just disable the ping option by -pn, which is what somebody asks in the chat. So if you disable -pn, it means Nmap will skip the ping option and it will start doing the scan. Now, the disadvantage of this is if the host is down, the packets are just being sent randomly. You see now it's already started the scan without doing the ping. So it will waste time trying to scan a host that is down because it's assuming that this host is up. And you can see here it says scan times may be slower because it's not sure. Yeah, that's why you can. So that's the option of -pn. Can be either. So, okay, let's go on to another question. I can clarify reading the server header. Okay, so if you are, I don't know if you guys have been able to read through the HTTP protocol. I don't know if it's in the mission. Let me check. The mission was there anything to deal with TCP. So HTTP is a protocol that runs on top of TCP. And in HTTP, the headers are important for communication between the client and the server because HTTP is a protocol in its name is Hypertext Transfer Protocol. So it's just a protocol to transfer text information. Although not all information transferred through HTTP is text, you have all kinds of content like zip files, we have videos, we have images, and all such and such. But at the base of it, it just has, it uses these headers to communicate. It's like a language. Speaking, if the way you say English, when you want to speak to someone, you say hello and they say hello back. That kind of language is what is happening here. So the headers is what define between the client and the server how they understand each other. So in this case, this is a response from the server. And the server is saying that, okay, we have received your request and your request is okay. Let me run the command again and increase the verbose option. So what you can see is our client connects to the server, sends a head request. So this is a method. And then it says, okay, I need to get this resource I'm using this protocol, HTTP 1.1. There are different versions of HTTP. I'm not going to go much into detail about the rest, however. So let's just understand what is happening. It's a communication. Okay, so you have the host.
Something I can add.
Mm-hmm.
For also just understanding the headers, in addition to helping someone understand how the servers are communicating, they'll also help you identify and even troubleshoot any miscommunication or any communication issues between your browser and that particular server.
Yes.
If you see what Meg has shared, in this case, one, you know the HTTP version are being used. You can see the various methods. In this case, we have it's a head method. You can also see the user agent being sent to the server. You can see the content type. So it also helps you better understand how that communication is happening. From a red team ethical hacking perspective, it can help you identify things like vulnerability, better understand how communication is happening, maybe identify some weakness of vulnerable services. At times, it can also leak some useful information that your browser might not render to you as the end user. But I hope that helps.
Yeah. So this is how you are supposed to solve the first question. I don't know if up to there we are together. So this is headers from the client, which is us. We want to connect to this host, and then the server itself responds. So the server usually responds with its version. So this is where the flag is hidden. But typically, because this is just a workshop, that's why it's there. But in real life, you just get the version. And then we have other headers here that you can research and try to understand what they mean. Okay. See more questions. Connection is poor. I think that's on your end because if Lawrence is getting me clearly, I don't think it's a problem on my side. There's some issues with VPN. Okay. If you have an issue with VPN, I think Lawrence's team can assist on Discord.
Yes. On Discord, we have a channel. You'll basically see guys meant as end user support. Those are the guys you need to talk to, and they'll sort you out.
Yeah, I see Benjamin. Yeah, you guys. He said he thought all -pn was used to scan all ports. I think you had it wrong. That's for disabling ping requests. What else? Should I continue? Are you guys comfortable with solving the first question? From headers, sometimes I see e-tags. No, it does not mean that it's a vulnerability. That's just a header that exists. I think if you Google what e-tags mean, I think it just depends on the server that you're running. What if ping request is disabled from the target? That's when you use -pn. So John, that's when you use -pn. If the target does not accept, if the target does not accept ping requests, you just disable. As long as you know that the target is running, you can disable the ping scan and go straight to port scanning. Right, I think we're cool with the questions. Let me go to question 2. What does question 2 say? Question 2 asks for there are more than one way to skin a cat. So if you've mapped, so right now we've mapped out the attack surface using our Nmap output. So we have how many 4 ports running, port 22, port 80, port 8080, and 137. So the next idea is connect to the non-standard port, which is definitely this one, because these are typical ports you find in environments out there, but this one is not a normal one to find open. So let's connect to it. So there are 2 ways you can connect to this port. You can use telnet. This helps you to connect to make raw connections to a port. But a better tool is netcat. So netcat, which is also NC for short. 92, we need to specify the host, then the port 31237. Right, connected to it. So right now we don't know what to do because it's just asking us for an answer. So when you come across this situation, the best way to do it is rely on internet and copy paste everything and paste it on Google. That's how I do it. Paste it because we don't know what this is, so there must be a way of figuring it out. And right off the bat, we can see that everything that we are searching for is in this text. So if you see this is your last chance, we have it here, you take the pill. So let's use this as a reference and see if this will help us solve this challenge. Okay. My screen is still visible, yes. Increase the font. There we go. So this is your last chance. This is here. So we just need to fill in the blanks. You take it says the red pill. Okay, good. Let's just fill it in. This is basically a challenge just to check how good you are with research. So remember, all I'm offering is there, nothing more. Okay, so you need to search for it. You need to look for a phrase that is starting with remember and see if it will get, if we will find it. Remember. I see it somewhere. Let's keep it.
Mike, I hear guys saying they can't hear you. So maybe I say quite a number of guys can't hear you. Emmanuel, let me see who else could not hear you. Emmanuel John, gladly, not gladly, I suspect it's still your network because Mike and I are in very different geographical regions.
But you can hear me, right?
Yes, I can, and I can hear Mike. I think John, Joachim, and the rest of the guys here are still able to hear him. Now, just a quick check. If you can't hear Emmanuel apart from Emmanuel, if you can't hear Mike apart from Emmanuel and John, just chat something on the chat. Say I can't hear, so that we know if we need to troubleshoot this further. But most likely, it will be a respective network.
Yeah. Okay, so I think try to mute Steve again.
Okay, let me mute.
Or just yeah, right. So let's continue. So we are looking for this phrase, remember, and so you can fill in the blank. So that's just all you need to do for this challenge. But I'll just for remember and see. Yeah, here we go. So all I'm offering is the truth. So it looks like that's the answer. Let's put that in. Yeah, correct. Right. So the next phrase is I'm trying to dash neo, but I can only show you the door. Let's copy this, paste it here in the search bar. There we go. So I'm trying to free your mind. So that's the phrase we need. Paste it in. There we go. And after that, it seems we got the answer. And we are done with that challenge. This is the flag. And it tells us check out the file. So this is like the solution to the next part of the challenge. So I'll download this file. Okay, folder. We get to download it. Okay.
Mike, a kind request. Once you're done, maybe just repeat from a question question, the second question, I think a few guys were totally not able to hear you. So most missed around 8 minutes or a few. So if you can, just maybe from question 2, you can just repeat how you went about solving it.
So according to Emmanuel, the issue is me. But if Emmanuel, if it's only you guys being, I think this is just a typical network issue because we are in different locations. There's not much we can do about it because if Lawrence can hear me, okay, maybe it's just the network across the world. Going up to Tanzania is a challenge for us.
Yeah, totally agree with Mike on that. But just to ensure we don't lock out anyone, and given that this is, after all, a learning session, if Mike, you could just repeat from question 2, I think a lot of the guys will appreciate it.
I think
once you're done with the workshop, this particular workshop.
So I think question 2 is all about Googling. I don't know if there's really much I need to repeat, unless there's anyone with a specific question, because all I did was copy paste this script into Google, and I was able to find this output. So as much as we can explain everything, unless there's anyone with a specific question, because all I did was copy paste this script into Google, and I was able to find. Right, thanks. So I was saying that there is no, at this point, as much as we can try to explain everything, you as a player or as a student, you need to be able to use Google to the best of your abilities, because this is straightforward. Just Google search. There's nothing outstanding about this challenge. As well as the flag says you need to research. Okay, so we downloaded PHP admin pickup file. So this is, when you see the pickup, you know this is a network capture. Tools you can use to read network captures, one of them is Wireshark. So that's what I'm going to do. Wireshark. So, and you know that you can't get this before solving the question number 2. So it's important. Get the leaked. I don't know if I can see if there's a way to increase the font. Zoom, okay. Zoom. Yeah, that works. Right, so for this challenge, also pretty easy. So if you look at the question, what does the question ask? It's 2019, but we are still using insecure communications. So we are able to access the pickup file. So now we need to analyze it to get the flag. All right, so typical things you do once you get a pickup file. Number 1 is analyze it. So analyze and look at expert information. So this will typically give you an overview of all the traffic that is there. And in this case, all we can see is we have TCP, HTTP, and a bunch of TCP connections. So here the focus of our investigation will be HTTP. So in this case, we need to look through the requests and just try to understand what is happening. So this is where now the knowledge about HTTP headers is going to help you, because if you don't understand what you're looking at, it's going to be difficult for you to solve a challenge like this, where you need to look at HTTP requests and understand them. Okay, so we have several requests. So let's go through them. So since we don't have any other protocol here, we only have HTTP. It's we don't have much investigation on other protocols. So HTTP, and then right click, let's say on the first one, and follow the HTTP stream. Okay, so this first one is just showing us a GET request to this URL, and then we see host. So this looks like our host in the challenge, and then just a simple GET request, so nothing serious about that. Going through it is not going to be effective, so let's go back again. Type in HTTP. So the way I like doing it, I like following the stream in TCP, because this helps me change the. I don't know, this part is hidden, but here it's supposed to be a number. So you can see once I hover over, it shows 4 total streams. So this is stream 1. We're just making a GET request. If we scroll through, we can see, okay, another GET request. Nothing serious. Another. No, this one is a post, but still the information here is not that important. Another post. So this is just how you would go about it. Scrolling, nothing much. Let's go to the next stream. Click the up arrow. This is now stream 1. Even you can see in the background it switched to stream 1. Right, let's see a post request. But else, nothing much in this request. Even if these are just cookies won't really be of assistance to us. Okay, let's go on to another one. A GET request to user password. Okay, so we have something interesting coming up. And then we have post request version check, not so important. Okay, let's check the next request. Now, what is interesting here is we have a post request to user password. Okay, so when you see post request, it means that there's some data being sent. And in this case, we have this request, and this doesn't look like the previous ones because we see something here, flag. And so we've actually identified our flag by discovering this post request. So I'm just going to copy it, and these special characters here are just the curly braces. So if I go back to my terminal, split the pane, paste it. So this this is just these characters in just encoded. This if you look into URL encoding, you'll see that this when you're transferring characters through the HTTP protocol, some special characters like these ones are usually encoded, so that they just they can arrive in the other side without any issues. And there we go, have a flag. And also something to note is that this endpoint is a user password, so it's like something is happening. If you look at the other requests, we have generated PW, which could be password, and then you see change password 1. So this could mean that this request is for updating the user's password in this host. And now we have a directory here, phpMyAdmin, and this is changing the password. to this, like that. So if you've interacted with PHPMyAdmin before, probably these kinds of requests can be familiar to you. Okay, so we have solved part 2. How else? Part 3. So how else would have we solved this challenge quickly? So instead of checking through one request by one, there's a way of searching through the whole pickup file. So if we click on zip file, no, edit, find packet, you get this drop down that appears. And then there are two options. We have packet list, packet details, and packet bytes. And because the HTTP information that you're interested in is inside the packet bytes is this information down here. So if we just use packet details are the stuff up here. So we need to search inside packet bytes. You can still hear me. Okay, and then we need to change it to string. And then after that, we just type in the flag. This is the content you're interested in finding. And then you do it correctly. You can find, and it drops us to the, if I click on something else and click find, it switches us to the request that we need. And right there we have the flag. So the search functionality is easier. So it just searches through the whole pickup file and drops us right where we need. So if I put like password and find, so we have multiple instances of password. So that's why we needed to use flag. So if you are doing analysis of a pickup file, searching through interesting strings is one way of making your work faster. So you have a flag there. Okay, so let's see what questions you guys have. Lawrence, you can assist me in looking through.
No problem. I think the only question we got was one asking that what's the first thing to think and do when you analyze a pickup file?
The first thing is what I did, analyzing the pickup just to find understanding of how many protocols are there. So you can use the expert information. Another way is look at the statistics and protocol hierarchy. So this is just to understand how much data you need to go through and which specific protocols are going to narrow down in, because sometimes you can find, if it's just a raw pickup that you sniffed, you can find things like SSH connections, you can find FTP connections. So you typically would go after the protocols that are not encrypted. So things like HTTP, FTP, Telnet. But if you see SSH, you can't really do. If you see HTTPS, you can't really do much because that's encrypted traffic. So looking at the protocols that are inside that recorded pickup are a first good option, so that you can see what to target. And in this case, HTTP was the only one, so that's what we will focus on. But if this was HTTPS, something like SSH, you just not look at it. But if you see things like FTP, which is not encrypted, there you can probably get even files that were recorded during communication. What is the advantage of strings in Linux than Go opening a direct picker? So for that question from Cypher, talked about strings. Well, such tools, they help you ease your work, probably in a challenge like this, but in real life, I will just recommend you to familiarize yourself with the tool that handles that file format. But let's see what strings gives us. If we do a strings on this, Do we get anything cool? Any flag? Let's see. So strings basically just goes into whatever file you give it and tries to remove any ASCII text that has been stored inside. I don't know. I don't see any flag here. Probably need to keep scrolling until we see. So an easier way would be, since we know we're looking for the flag, I just do a grep. Hoping you guys were taught about grep in your Linux workshop. There we go. We got the exact line that has the flag. So this is those things we call quick wins. But if you're in the learning stage, trying to understand all this, I recommend just go through the Wireshark file, open the file in Wireshark, do the analyze, because let's say, for example, if it's a real world situation, which is not just a challenge, in this case, we know what we're looking for. We're looking for the flag. But if it's a pickup file, you don't know what is included, you will just end up having a bunch of strings and you don't know what you're looking for. So it will be a lot of noise. So the recommended methodology would be open it in Wireshark and do the analysis there. But if you're already experienced, maybe a quick way of, if you're playing, let's say, a CTF, or you just have a simple challenge that you've been given to find the flag, using strings will be of assistance. Right. So far, any other question? So I think we have gone through everything we need. Anyone with a question? Should we go on to the final part so that we can move on to workshop 4? I was supposed to repeat some things, so I'd like anyone to ask a question first before I can continue. Okay.
Mike, I think you're good to continue to workshop 4.
Okay. So I think was anybody satisfied with the first few questions that we did? Question 1 and 2. So question 2, just about Googling and using Netcat. Question 1, we basically said, just a recap. Question 1 was just doing a request to that server, which was 68.25.10, port 8080. Then you had to check the headers and then submit the flag. So the flag is the answer, not everything, just the flag like this. Same with the other question. This is for the Wireshark. So there are different ways of solving challenges, but the fundamental thing is that you need to understand how to use some tools to help you in your quick analysis, using things like statistics. Sometimes you can also check the capture file properties, so you can see things like the system that it was collected from. It was a Linux system using Wireshark also. Sometimes it could be used using TCP dump. There are different tools to capture packets. And the interface, it was a so this interface is a VPN interface, so it means it was not a live network. Like, I mean, it wasn't a local network or something like that. It was a foreign Ubuntu 18.04 even gives us the host operating system and the kernel. So information like this could be helpful. Maybe you can try to figure out where the pickup was collected. Was it a Windows machine? Was it a Linux machine? You couldn't identify this if you were just using strings. Okay. So I'll just keep this one up, because why I'm not closing this window is because if you remember, when you're looking at the TCP stream, you see this IP address. This IP address is our target IP address. So we're going to look at it. So it's this. We saw there was a PHP my admin. Okay. So this means that this application is where, most probably, just making a guess, is where this pickup was collected from. Okay, so let's go to the next question 4. So admins sometimes forget to update their systems. So basically, the word admins there will just direct you to this, because this is the only application that is mostly associated with admin tasks. This one, because it hosts a database. So admins forget to update their systems. Can you find the outdated web application? Okay, I think this will be our best target, and exploit it to gain the operating system, to gain access. Then set the flag will be in the folder of the home user, of the user running the application. Okay. And in the question, my first shell, it's talking about Metasploit. Great. So first things first, you need to guess maybe some credentials. Try to access this. So based on this name, suitable account will be phpMyAdmin or admin. Those will be our two candidates, but let's start with phpMyAdmin. And also from our pickup, if you remember, where we got the flag. Did it skip there? Then search. Then this, open this packet, HTTP stream. So what we identified was this is most likely a post request to change the password because of these parameters that are here, change PW and such. So let's make just a guess that this is our new password. Okay, need to paste it in. This one. Oh no, I need to change. This to make it correct. And try these credentials. Okay, paste. Go. Okay, it works. Get a login. So that's good on our end. And then now, what will be interesting about this application? When you're trying to perform exploitation, very important things would be the application version, because the application version is what would assist you to discover vulnerabilities. And in this case, we have the version information here. So phpMyAdmin is running version 4.8. So from the question, they said admins forget to update their system. So probably this is an outdated system. So a quick way that hackers or analysts or penetration testers do is look for existing vulnerabilities. And if you have Kali Linux, you most probably have heard of such exploit. This is just a command line tool that is linked to exploit DB. So we search for PHP myadmin and put in the version number 4.8.0. Right, we have something. Cross-write request forgery doesn't really look juicy. Let's remove the .0. Okay, we have more. So in this case, we have two vulnerabilities here. Interesting. So let's just do some read. Right. So how do you, once you've identified potential, and since here we have authenticated this, because we have credentials, maybe this is what we really need. So now to read through this, such exploit gives us a good option -x, which I read to mean examine. So we just do -x. And this just gives us really information about this application. Shows us vulnerability that we can exploit, and such. Okay, it's not there. Let's move on. Read another one. Okay, see what it tells us. This is just a request, not really clear. All right. So once we have identified that this application has a vulnerability existing, the next option to make our life easier would be Metasploit. Metasploit is just an automated framework for exploiting vulnerabilities. So in another way, another situation, you will try to read through this exploit text and understand them, or just use Metasploit to make your work easier. And because Metasploit has been in years of development, the outcome that we get from Metasploit is going to be sufficient. Right, so search. We need to search for PHP myadmin. Right, we have several. So the ones that are looking for authenticated local file inclusion. And we see here a payload, an exploit which is related to LFI. So that's the one we're going to check into. Series 3. So I don't know if you guys have been able to use Metasploit in your other sessions, but let's go on. So we need to check the options that we need to set for this exploit. So we need to set our hosts, which is now our target, running on that IP address. Set username. Okay, username, we found that it was PHP myadmin. Password, so we set also the password, which was the flag. This. Okay, so once all the options are set, we're going to change our payload, because in the CyberRange environment we cannot get reverse connections. So we're going to change our payloads. So I'm going to set it to a bind payload. So PHP interpreter, and in this case I'm going to use bind TCP. But if you SSH into the Kali machine, that shouldn't be an issue. You can get a reverse connection. Set the R host. L port should remain the same. You can change it to anything you like. Let's run the exploit and see if we get successful exploitation. Hopefully it will work. Stop my VPN, probably your connection is slow. 1 second. No, it's not working. The options correctly set. So this is just to troubleshoot what's happening. Okay. Okay, I guess it takes time. Huh? It's just it was in the process of working. Okay, give it a second, probably it will work. Ah, there we go. Get a connection back. So we're good to go. So this means we have successfully exploited this system and got application level access. So if we do this shows that we have successfully exploited the system. So I'm just going to go into this user. The question said, where do we get the flag? It's in the home folder of the user and the application. Okay. So an easier way is just go to the home folder. The one is run the application is www.data. Then you can cut the flag. Okay, that's how we solve that final option. If you are having issues with VPN, I don't know if you guys are shown this, but in the servers tab, we have this web console thing here. So this gives you graphical access to the system. So instead of needing VPN, you can do everything in your browser. So in this case, we are using the Kali Linux machine. Kali, you just put in the credentials that are mentioned there, and then you can perform exploitation. I don't know if Lawrence shared this information, so that the guys who are struggling with VPN, they can
this was shared with the guys that different ways of accessing the platform, either using the console, using the web service, or using VPN.
Yeah, so I don't.
You guys requesting you to repeat the Metasploit procedure.
Okay. So I'll redo it.
Mike,
yes.
I'm just wondering if this time maybe you can either do it from the web console, the web service, or web console, just to illustrate the process.
I'll use this because I don't like the graphical to be a bit slower. So I use the web shell, which will just launch through the services like this. Increase the font size. To load. Right. So Metasploit is an MSF console. Launch Metasploit, and then some guys are wondering how we use the pickup. Sometimes both ways don't work. What's the password for the curly there? The password is password. SSH error permission denied. I don't know what that means. I've never got any SSH issues, but if you're using a web shell, I don't think you should run into those problems. I think, David, you need to be specific. Can I repeat what? Right now, I'm trying to redo the Metasploit section. Right, so we identified our target to be PHP myadmin. So we just search for PHP myadmin in Metasploit. And then after searching for it, since we identified the version, how is my web application? Yeah, we identified the version as 4.8, and version 4.8, when we used CyberStars, I don't know if you guys remember when we did CyberStars, we identified this vulnerability of local file inclusion authenticated. So because we have credentials, this will be the first one to test out, and it actually worked for us. So in other situations, you will probably try and test them one by one, which is not recommended. But based on our information gathering processes, we have arrived at that the exploit that we should use is the local file inclusion to RCE. So copy paste this, use this exploit. So just use, that's how Metasploit, you select an exploit, and then we need to set our options. So the options are just parameters for the use of Metasploit. So in this case, we need to set our host, which is our target. Set the our hosts 5.10. Then port 80, this is fine. Then the credentials. So I'll set username, then set the password to this. We choose the flag. What else? We need to change, in this case, because we are inside the Kali system, this is fine. If you're on a local host, your local machine, you change the payload. But if you're using the Kali machine inside the scenario, we don't need to change the payload. The reverse connection will work. So hit run. You can also use the command exploit, both are the same. And then it will connect and give us a proper access to that system. All right, I think the Metasploit part is done. Any question? Repeat in VNC Kali. What do you mean repeat in VNC Kali? I think the steps are the same. I don't want to spend too much time doing the same thing over and over, because if you use VNC, you just open the console and then open the terminal and then do the same steps again. Just it's the only thing you need is the terminal. So anything I've done here, you can redo on here. So just launch the terminal, use MSF console, and then go on with the steps that I've just outlined. I know it's very small here, but everything that I did here is what we need. So you can see now we have Metapreter session opened. You can run commands on the target, get and such. Okay. I think that's it for this workshop 3. No one else got a question? Okay, Lawrence, what do you think? Should we go on to workshop 4.
Yeah, if there are no questions for workshop 3, I think we should move on to workshop 4. Just also bear in mind not to keep everyone till late in the evening.
Yeah, sure. Okay, so I don't see anybody with a question, so one last time, please. I think I've repeated the Metasploit part. That should be good. I think more questions you can deal with them in Discord after this session finishes. I think I'm still there. All right, so I'm going to kill this and open the workshop 4. Okay, library workshop 4. Start. So workshop 4 is really going to test your skills more than workshop 3. I'll give more support on Discord. The guys that are asking some questions on the last question. But I also hope that you've been reading those resources that have been shared in the mission.
So guys, we hope that you have learned a few things, maybe gotten how to respond and answer to some of the challenges. This just to enable you be able to redo the challenges once again, based on what Mike has just taken us through. Mike, I think our workshop 4 is ready. And just something to mention out as we wait for Mike to resume. So if you feel you can also take guys through a walkthrough, maybe for a single question or multiple questions, always reach out to us and we'll gladly host you on the next webinar. I think Mike has stepped out for a minute. So just to go back to guys having issues, for workshop 4, the username is Scully. The password is password. I've shared them on chat. There are 4 ways to access any of those machines. The easiest way is to use the web terminal or the web service. If you go under services, you'll get it. The second way is to use the console. And the third way is to use a VPN. In most cases, you are required to actually access the Kali machine and use it to find vulnerabilities, exploit those vulnerabilities to get access to the Linux or to the target machine. So if you are getting permission denied, especially for challenge 4, it was because you are not meant to access it via SSH. You're meant to access it using the Kali machine. And for anyone who asked for assistance, we guided them on the right way to do that challenge. I see Mike is back. Over to you, Mike.
Okay, thank you, Lawrence. So let's do challenge workshop 4. We're going to more or less do the similar steps that we did earlier. So in this case, we have the first part, which is talking about Anonymous have uploaded the manifesto on the server. Okay, so let's look at the server. In the servers tab, you have a Kali machine, which you can, in this case, they don't have the console. Unfortunately, I think for workshop 4, Lawrence, I think for workshop 4, they need VPN. Because
Mike, I think I mistakenly muted you.
Okay, Lawrence.
Yes?
I'm saying I think for workshop 4 you can sort out, because I don't see the web shell or the console for this one.
For workshop 4, I can add those web shell and console later. They should be there. Let me just check.
Because I don't see them on my side. So the IP address you're targeting is the same one, .10. So we'll just go through the steps. Discovery using Nmap, so -sc -sv, same IP, run the scan, and wait for it to complete. So in most cases, running Nmap like this will be fine, but some cases you'll need to run a full port scan. So this one, when you're running Nmap like this, running Nmap without any additional much changes, will scan the top 1000 ports, not all of them. So for you to scan properly, you need to use -p- to scan. This will take longer, obviously. 65,535 ports. So by default, Nmap like that. By default, just something to have a note of. By default, it will scan the top 1000. So you need to use -p- to scan all ports. But in most situations, it's going to be enough. Okay, so let's look at our output. We have port 21. As I said, I see guys talking about port SSH. Port 22. You're not supposed to access. You can't access port 22 on the target. That's something to remember. You need to exploit the target, so you can't access it. So let's look at something to notice here is that this FTP server running has anonymous authentication allowed. So this means that anyone can connect to this FTP service and check the services. Okay, check the files, I mean. So let's do that. So this is one of the vulnerabilities. If you found any anonymous FTP server running out there, this is a vulnerability. But a vulnerability in the sense of misconfiguration, not in the sense of outdated patch or something. We supply anonymous as a username, and we don't care about the password. Password can be anything. Ls. Okay. So I'm just going to change this. When you see something like this, change the mode to passive, and that will allow you to start to work through. Sometimes FTP servers actually use two ports, so sometimes it can fail on one. So when you change to passive, the ports it uses change. Okay, so we have a directory which is denoted by the D at the beginning. So cd pub, and there we access manifesto. So we need to grab it. So get the manifesto. This is the download command on FTP. Download it. So that's it. So we are done with that service because there's nothing else in the files. Cut manifesto. It's a bunch of information you don't get to read. At the end, we have the flag. So that's question 1 done. Okay. Any question about accessing FTP? Just a reminder, what we just basically did was run Nmap with default scripts and default services. It was able to identify that FTP allows anonymous authentication. We logged in and grabbed the manifesto. Simple start. Someone is asking where is the link to workshop 4. I hope Lawrence has shared the link to the workshop.
Yeah. Watch the announcement channel on Discord for any links that you might need.
Right, so let's go on. I don't see any question in the chat, so I think I should continue. All right, so we've done that one question. Let's move to question 2. Question 2 is weak passwords belong to me. Okay, this is interesting. So the Hacker Collective needs you to hack into the web server, which is password protected. So web server, let's look at our ports. How many web servers do we have? We have 2. We have port 80 and port 8080. So let's check which one we should target. Those are tabs. This is just default, so nothing here. Let's go to the other web server. Fresh. Okay, this is the web server they're talking about, running on port 8080. This is our Nmap scan. So we need to perform a brute force, as they said. So we need to hack into this web server. So we need a way of attacking. So typically, a good tool to use on the command line that is Hydra. This is a brute forcing tool. So there are different ways you can deal with brute force. We have Babsuit. Babsuit also supports brute forcing, but that's not in our scope for this workshop. Okay, so how do you identify? First, the best way to understand how command works is check the help menu they provide. Okay, now we have Babsuit, Hydra. It's at least up to date. Version 20. It's up to 2020. We have the different, you need to understand the syntax. So -L, small l is for login. So this means login like username. And capital L is when you're supplying a file. So a file with usernames and so on and so forth. So you just reading through this will help you understand each of the options. Okay. Another option, the second part to understand are things called supported services. So these are the services that Hydra can help us in brute force. So you can see it can brute force this. I don't know what this is. Asterix. You can brute force Cisco. You can brute force Firebird, you can brute force FTP. So these are all the services it supports. HTTP, which is what we're going to be focusing on right now, HTTP form, and so on. So there are many services supported. We can brute force our login, RTP. So this is one of the good tools. You can brute force telnet. That is if telnet is enabled with authentication. So there are many other services here that even MySQL, if you have a database that is exposed, you can try and brute force using this tool. Okay, so let's build up our command. Hydra, specify the username, which we have a predefined username here, which is admin, so that's what we'll use. And then from the question says use admin user has one of the 500 worst passwords. So that's what we're going to use. So -p for file and 500 worst password, is located. This is in my local machine. I don't know if where in your machine it's located, but in my local machine it's under sec lists, passwords, common credentials, 500. So I know this by often because I've used it a lot. Okay, so what do we do next? So the next thing is look at our syntax. So our syntax wants us to supply the service and server at the end. So this is running on a different port than port 80. So we need to specify the port. So this -s 8080. Then the server still 95.10. And then now the service at the end. You see here it says service. So the service at the end. So the service in this case is HTTP post form. And how do I know it's this service? It's because when you supply a password, let's go back to our developer tools. If you supply a password, a post request is going to be sent. Sorry that I'm going a bit quick, but it's gotten late. So when you send a post request, when you log in a post request, so you need to analyze how the application is performing login so that you can successfully perform attack. So in this case, it's sending, if you look at the request, it's sending a post request to /login with the following form. So that's why it's post form, because it's using a form. Right. So we're going to put the form information in quotes. So the first thing is specifying the endpoint. So this is the post parameters. So the first one is username. Then you set the user. So this is where our initial username is going to be put in. Then password. Then you say pass. This is where our -p. So everything in this word list is going to be put inside this. Then after that, we separate that. And then the last part is I tell Hydra that when the login fails, this is going to be the output, so that Hydra can know that once we don't encounter this output, our password is correct. So this looks good. So I'm going to do -v to see each request. Then we let it go. Hopefully we're going to get a password. All right, there we go. Success. We got the password as computer. Great. So computer. There we go. We got our second flag, and we discover something else, upload functionality. So how would we? So the next question, before I go forward, any questions? Don't seem to see any questions. So we have a flag. So let's go to the next challenge, which is uploading a file, arbitrary file upload. So we need to gain access to the operating system. You can upload any file. So it says admins can upload files without any restrictions. So in this case, we don't need to test out the files. We can basically upload a malicious PHP script. Right. So SSH into the Kali machine. I think it is this one. Yeah, that should be the correct credentials. This is just an SSH command, don't worry about it. Okay, so I need to upload a reverse shell here. This is basically a PHP script that is going to give me shell access to the machine. So how do I do that? I'm going to create copy one. So copy. So in Kali Linux we have the web shells available for us. So we need PHP web shell, and then I'm going to copy the PHP reverse shell. And we can't use it as it is, so we need to edit it, change IP and port. So change the IP to our attacker's IP. So our attacker is the Kali Linux machine, which is running at .15. I'm going to use port 545. Okay, that's sufficient for us to exploit this and get shell access. So I'll go to my temp folder, upload the file we just edited. Okay, success, we have the location. So here we need to open a listener to catch our reverse shell, port 555. Right, then visit this. And as soon as we visit it, we get shell access to that machine, as you can see here. Right. So since this is just a shell access we received from PHP, we need to stabilize it. And a good way of stabilizing it is using Python. So Python-C, this is launch TTY. That is going to help us run better commands on this shell that we have. This. There we go. Now, as per the question, we need to get the flag. So it doesn't say where. So we need to find it. So we just need to look around. Typical location of this user is www, and here we get the flag. If you look at the etc password file, we have www data as the home directory is this one, /var/www. That's where the flag is located. So we cut it. That solves it. Any question up to that point? This is solution for question 3, where we've basically uploaded a reverse shell and got the reverse shell on our Kali machine and got the flag. Okay, next thing, since I don't see any questions, is to escalate our privileges. So Elliot needs a help. He manages to exfiltrate data using the CrackMe user. So CrackMe user is this one. He exists in this machine, and his folder is home/CrackMe. Okay. And the connection was cut before he was able to download the file. So he left the backup of hashed password. Crack the hash using the same word list we got and retrieve the flag. Okay, sounds straightforward. So we have shadow.backup. I need to cut shadow backup to get the hash. So we need to crack the hash of the CrackMe user. So copy the hash between the colons. Copy this. Then back in my host machine, I'm going to type it in hash. Put it in a file. Next thing I'm going to use John. So John is going to, there are two commands, two tools that are used for cracking hashes. So one is hashcut and the other one is John. So either of the two. So in this case, I'm going to use John because it's easier. Specify my word list. Word list we used in Hydra. If my output is still available, scroll up. So the word list I used was /user share word set list, passwords, common credentials, 500 passwords. So you can download this off of GitHub if you don't have it. So be sure to put an equal sign. So this is how you specify word list in John, and then hash .txt, and then run it. I previously cracked that password, so I need to remove that. Now let's crack it again. So you see it says format MD5 script loaded and it was successfully cracked by John. If you want to see the password, just append --show. I need to remove the word list so that it can successfully work. So the hash --show will dump the password that was cracked. Okay. And something interesting about John is if we edit the hash and specify the user, it was CrackMe in that format using separating the colon, and we try to crash the hash again. See that it specified the user. So if you have many hashes, it's easier to identify the owner of that hash. So it can tell you now this is the password. All right, back in our system here, since we have the password, we can even try to SSH into that system now because you've cracked the hash. So CrackMe 192.168.5.10, which is our target. This is a common issue when you've previously accessed a similar IP to the password. Yes. Public key. So it means SSH authentication is disabled. But it's no problem because we have exploit shell here. So we just switch user to CrackMe. Paste the password in and you get access. Go to the home directory of CrackMe and cut the flag. That's it. That's all for workshop 4. Don't see other questions in the chat. So we've done the 4 of them. How about you, Lawrence?
Thank you so, Mike. I'll make this very brief and short. Thank you again, Mike, for taking us through this. Our hope is this session has given guys hints, has helped guys refine their methodology on how to handle those questions. In regards to the recording, definitely they will be shared at a later date. We still have a bit of editing that needs to be done. Once that is done, the relevant partners, TCRA or our social media team will post them out. Then with that, I'd like to wish everyone a very lovely evening, lovely weekend. If you get some time, the challenges are already published and you can always revisit. Thank you so much and have a lovely weekend. Bye.
And they are healthy kids. See,